Hi, how you doing, and welcome back to another video on the channel. What we have for you today is our wildcard video going into Game Week 7, and just like Game Week 6, this week's proving to be quite popular among people who are considering a wildcard. Even if you're not, hopefully it'll help you out with your transfer thoughts moving forward. And if you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. The support has been awesome so far this season, and it really is appreciated. And subscribing is free. You know, we're a small channel trying to grow, so if you can help with that, it would be great. I do just want to note that we are recording this before Sunday's games have kicked off, but unless there's any major injuries, there's not anything I think that would affect the players that I've picked for this team. So before we get into the actual squad, I just want to say you've got to be okay with not owning players who will score points every week. You can't points chase. I think a great example is the Jota-Diaz combination. You know, one of them scores and then everyone wants them, and then the other one scores, so everyone wants them. And you've just got to be okay that sometimes your player probably isn't going to score points and someone else's player is. And I think it's a bit of a less stressful way to play FPL. But just a thought there to start the video. Let's look at the players. So we're going to start with Everton. Now, I'm not saying you should triple up on Everton, but a couple of cheap players who enable you to get in more expensive players is a good idea. After Newcastle, they've got Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham and Brentford. After that, it gets a bit tougher. So I would say if you want them in, get them in now. I've gone for McNeil, who's got 5 returns in 6 games, and Mykolenko. It is worth noting that McNeil has blanked in 3 of those 6 games, but at 5.5 million, you shouldn't expect him to score every week. Think if you get him in thinking, oh, he's just scored 2 goals, he's going to score another 2 goals next week. I don't think he is. He might, but he's more likely to get 1 in every 2 games, maybe every 3 games, and that is good for his price. You just have to be realistic with your expectations. So we've been bigging up the Arsenal triple up recently, but this time I'm changing it to the double up. Now, what we always try and do is look for value for money, right? So it's whether you want the most points for the cheapest price. Raya is still the cheapest way into the Arsenal defence, even though he's the most expensive goalkeeper. So it depends what you value more, a cheaper keeper or getting in on Arsenal defence in your team. So sure, he doesn't have a goal threat, but I actually think people have been oversold on Arsenal set pieces. Gabriel won't score every week. I think if you buy Gabriel thinking he will, you'll be disappointed. I've also more sold on Havertz now as an attacking option. He's actually played every minute of every league game so far, and Arteta seems to be finding a way to get him in the pitch. So this was shown in his 99th minute goal yesterday. If he's not playing at that point, he doesn't score. So he is someone who is always going to be on the pitch for Arsenal as it stands. So last video we talked about a lot of triple ups, but we've got a lot of double ups this week. And a main reason for that is that teams with great fixtures last week have one less great fixture this week. You know, we're a week on and other teams come into play. So Brentford's fixtures remain great. And Mbeumo is someone you should just have in your team. 5 goals in 6 games, and Wolves, Man United, Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton and Leicester in the next 7. That's awesome. People were also worried about Van den Berg, but after another 90 minutes against West Ham, I think he could be there to stay. At 4 million, he represents 0 risk to your budget, and if he doesn't play, you've got no value tied up in your bench. So having said that we're sticking with more double ups, we've actually got a triple up here. So Man City, you definitely do need some Man City players in your team. Fulham, Wolves, Southampton and Bournemouth in the next 4. And Foden will get rest / training time over an international break between Game Week 7 and 8. I think people are kind of overlooking that there's a break coming up where he can get more into form, get a bit more rested, get a bit more ready. So he could be starting in no time. Haaland is Haaland, and we're going to leave that there. They have conceded in their last 5 games in a row, and I don't think there's much value in the defence. But Rico Lewis will play now that Rodri is out, and he is cheap enough for it not to be an issue. I think at 4.7 million, that's a good price. You're not using loads of money on a Man City defence because they're not showing loads of promise there. But he is someone that's a defender who's playing in midfield more often than not. So he's offering you points potentially on the attacking side and the defensive side. So I've put Palmer and Konate in together as I just want to talk about not knee-jerking them in. We're not chasing their previous points, although 4 goals for any FPL player will be really appreciated in your team, I'm sure. Konate isn't going to get an attacking return every week. He got an assist 2 weeks ago, he's got a goal yesterday. So we have to have our expectations sorted. but he does look nailed on to play every week for Liverpool, which is a great defence in theory. And like what we said about Raya with Arsenal, Konate is the most cost-efficient way of getting into the Liverpool defence. So, don't expect him to get an attack and return every week, but you should expect him to start every week, which is pretty good as it is. And he's so much cheaper than any other Liverpool defender. Palmer not being in Chelsea's European squad means that he is nailed on for starting in the league every week. Of course, scoring 4 goals and a half makes him easy to convince people to bring him in. But just like Konate, don't expect him to score 4 goals every week. With Forest, Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United and Arsenal in the next 5, they're not easy games. But Chelsea's attack does look great, and Palmer is in form. And we always say, good form makes bad fixtures easier. He's in good form, to say the least. What an understatement. So Solanke rounds out the starting 11, and even though we've not seen Spurs play this weekend, I think he remains a good option. Spurs have some good attacking fixtures: Brighton, West Ham, and Palace in the next 3 after this game week. And at the start of the season, everyone was sort of desperate to get Solanke in. He was looking to sort of be a game-breaking player who everybody wanted in. Then he got injured and everyone had to take him out. But there's not really anything that's changed from that point. I think he is only 9% owned, so you could get ahead of the curve here and buy him in now. So the rest of the bench is the cheapest options who also play. I always think that you don't want loads of points on your bench. If you get 1 or 2 points off your bench when needed, that's great, because if they're scoring more than that, they probably shouldn't be on your bench. You've maybe made the wrong decision and you should have started them in the first place. So overall, shout out to Fantasy Football Hub. This team is only rated at 86%. Now, we do look for confirmation from the data, but how often is the data wrong? In the sense that on paper, we look like we have solid teams. We look like we have solid players. A classic example is, everyone would have thought that Man City would be a good defence to get in, but they've kept 1 clean sheet in 6 games. So there's no defenders who are keeping clean sheets consistently. Arsenal have just let in 2 goals to Leicester. Well, the data would probably have said that Leicester probably aren't going to score 2 goals off of the 3 shots on target that they had. So you do have to sort of, use that information. But also, if you think you've got a good team, like I think this is a good team in front of us here, I think we go with that. And, sometimes you can go with the data and still be wrong. So you might as well be wrong on your own decisions. And then when you are right, you can give yourself a bit more credit as well. So the overall team value is 99.7%. And I think that's a good value. Hopefully everyone could afford it. It leaves you a little bit of wiggle room if you wanted to drop down. And if you didn't want someone like Foden right now, you can reduce him to maybe a Liverpool midfielder and upgrade in the defence elsewhere. I think overall it's solid, and the strengths for me are that it's spread out on different teams. Last week the team was sort of focused on 3 teams. Now we've got a few different squads in there, and I think that's good for just spreading out potential points, because sometimes you can get shocks from, if you'd have gone triple Arsenal defence yesterday and lumped all in on Arsenal defence, like we were potentially talking about, that wouldn't have worked out for you. Whereas if you can go for a few different defences, you're maybe more guaranteed to get at least a clean sheet in there somewhere. And these players are good for long term. If you're wildcarding, you do want your players for about 15 weeks. You're going to have some that you're going to swap about, but your core, you want to stay in there. And the best way to do that is to attack the fixtures. So the weaknesses are that potentially it's a weak defence and that there's too many risks. But like we said, show me a defender who's kept a clean sheet every week, or show me a 5.5 million midfielder who's scored every week. You've got to take risks to predict future points, and just go with your gut, because the data can let you down anyway. So hopefully that all makes sense. Let me know what you think about the team. I'm fully aware that it's not the highest overall rated, but we've had some higher rated teams that then, they haven't worked out as well as we wanted to do. So I wanted to go with a team that sort of was what I thought as well would be a good team, no matter what the data says. So I'm fully prepared to be criticised, and that's fine. Let me know if there's any players that are missing, any players that you'd take out. Let me know if you're wildcard as well and what your team is, and just general transfer thoughts moving forward. Please do like and subscribe. The support is always appreciated, and we are trying to grow, so any other support would be great. good luck in this game week. Hopefully you're having a good weekend as well with FPL, and well done if you own Palmer, and even well done if you captained him. Someone in one of my mini leagues did actually captain Palmer, so what a fantastic result for them. Hey, you've got to be happy for people when it works out. So yeah, good luck in this game week, and I will see you in the next one.